Hey everybody, this is Jeff. In case you're new to the page, I'm a former 60 Minutes producer, former producer at Vice on senior producer at Vice on HBO, former senior producer at National Geographic Television. It's early, and I just want to talk a little bit about the events in Minneapolis again. I was seeing this morning that Trump is going to surge more ICE personnel into Minneapolis, a place that's already pretty tight. I think it's important to understand what's going on here. First of all, it's attitude of the president, right? It's a leadership situation. He's clearly has narcissistic personality disorder. I'm convinced of that. I mean, have you ever noticed that he's never apologized for anything he's ever done? Never takes responsibility for anything he's ever done. Never says he's sorry for anything. Seems to have no empathy. These are traits of a person that has narcissistic personality disorder. I think it's far worse than somebody who just has dementia, because people who have narcissistic personality disorder or malignant narcissism, they don't have empathy. They don't think they're ever wrong. They won't change their course unless it's politically expedient for them to do so. And they don't care about anything except their own personal needs. And he set up ICE to support that. I mean, this is an organization that, under the big beautiful bill, has gotten billions and billions and billions of dollars more than we'd ever imagine in an organization like this. And there's a reason for it. And there's hundreds of billions of dollars now stuck into ICE that was not there before for immigration. But it's not really for immigration. Some of it's for immigration because they're going after people like ICE should do. But really what it's about, it's about creating his own private army. If you've ever worked in any country around the world where there was dictators, you will note that there's not the normal police posture. It's people on the streets of those towns are routinely running into what they look like you seeing in the streets of Minneapolis, military type forces. Now, you can't put the U.S. military on the streets. It's being fought all the time. Even the National Guard is becoming problematic for him. But he can put guys that are dressed like U.S. military on the streets. These guys at ICE are dressed like special operations troops. They're dressed like, they're dressed like Delta Force, or they're dressed like, SEAL Team 6. And then these guys are more like MEAL Team 6, a lot of them. And they're dressed that way for a purpose. If you look at a normal police officer, when he comes up to your house, you've done something wrong, unless you're a violent criminal or a murderer, they knock on your door dressed normal, pretty normal, with their hat on, Maybe they're wearing a vest underneath, but it's probably not plated, you know what I mean? They're not ceramic plated. They're not dressed in military type uniforms because they're police officers. These guys wear police on there, but they're not. You can get that police badge off Amazon. Yeah, I'll in 3 days I could be a policeman by their standards, because they go through 47 whole days of training. It's a weird number, right? 47 just so happens to coincide with the president's term. His term is 47th term. Strange that everything has to have his name on it some way. But here we go. Militant police force going in hard, like they're knocking down doors in Afghanistan. And this is not normal, but it is normal in totalitarian states. He's creating a private army because he wants to do whatever he wants with that army that he can't do with his own military on the streets of America. He can't use those troops for that. He can project power with them outside of the country, but he knows he really can't get away with putting them on the streets. So create your own army and put them on the streets of America. And if you have to arrest some Americans you think are quote-unquote terrorists, 37-year-old lady with 3 kids and a lesbian girlfriend or wife, that's what your ICE people are going to be doing. They're going to be harassing people who are protesting, and they're going to be picking up people they say are violent, but we know they're not all that violent. Like a lot of the people he's picking up, like he was at the airport the other day going through Uber drivers, with border protection to pick people up, checking whether they're Americans or not. He's picking up people at Home Depot, who are trying to get a job and work. He's picking up people at car washes. He's going by high schools. You don't need to be dressed like this for that work. I'm sorry. And it makes tensions high because people see people like that. They don't think, hey, I'm protected. They think these people are coming to intimidate us. And what do they think that people are going to think? They wonder why some woman drove off. You know, and they say people that are told by people to stop and don't drive off, they shouldn't do that. It's like they're fearful. And the one thing you learn when you're fearful is to run away. In fact, they teach it. You know, in martial arts, they say, you know, if you're scared that somebody's going to harm you, the best thing you can do, especially if you're a woman, is to run away. Get away from them. Scream and yell and run away, because you can't overpower these people. And by the way, you definitely can't overpower the people who are trying to drag her out of the car, right? So I'm not saying what she did was right or smart, but people panic, and when people panic, they do panicky things. And when you're scared, you do all sorts of things when you're scared, because they're not trained like you are, ICE. They don't have 47 whole days of training and maybe a military background or a police background, like some of you should. So, you know, understand that this is not normal. Now, I'll tell you how some special operations troops dealt with some situations in Afghanistan. Again, I go back to places where I worked. You know, I was with a special forces team. I was taken to a special forces base on the Pakistani border. You know, I think it was Kunar province, if I remember correctly. We flew from Bagram Air Base on helicopter. I was with this really nice guy named Colonel Custer. I can't make that name up. All right, Colonel Custer. And Colonel Custer went in there to show me around, and we saw the special forces guys doing their job. They had a couple incidents going on. One was that they had a guy that worked on their base who they knew, and they found out he was paid for by the U.S. military as a local Afghan, and they found out he was storing weapons for the Taliban. The Taliban had come to him and said, you have to store these weapons for us. And he wasn't in a position to say no, because the Taliban are thugs too. So they came and said, you have to store these weapons. So he built a space in his house behind a wall, and he stored these weapons for him, RPGs, you know, AKs, all that kind of stuff. And the special operations team, you know, the Green Berets went in and they knocked on his door. Shut up. Oh, the dogs heard that. Quiet, quiet. Dixie and George, don't come to my house. They'll know you're coming. Dixie, be quiet. Quiet. And they knocked on the door and they said, we know you have weapons stored in your house. We know you work for us. We know you have weapons in the house, and we need to come in and get them. And, you know, we're not going to arrest you. We're just telling you that up front. If you tell us now and we see these weapons, we're going to seize the weapons because we don't want them killing these Americans. And we're going to take you back to work. And you go back to work. And it's going to be all over with because you've been honest with us. We know the pressure you're under. And we don't want to create this situation for you. And we don't want the town to hate us. We want the town to understand that we're here to bring peace and stability to this town and to get rid of the hardcore people that are here. Not the people who are like doing easy, minor stuff. So the guy did. He took him in. I watched this. I filmed it, everything. He started moving bricks out of the wall, and lo and behold, there was the weapons cache. And they took it and left. And he then later went back to work that day. And they didn't arrest him. They turned him from somebody who was fearful of them to somebody who they knew he could trust and he had their back. And he told them, we're going to do our best to make sure that these people don't come in and harm you. Now, that's not what these guys are doing in Minneapolis. They're going in hard. They're breaking down doors. They're shooting people. I'll tell you another little story. I was with an SF operations, special operations group. And we were sitting having tea. And they were trying to get information about people coming through the town. So we were with SF, and there were some conventional guys with us. There was actually some guys from the Central Intelligence Agency doing interrogations. And, you know, they were, you know, firm, but they weren't thuggish. They said, we know this town has, this little village has Taliban in it. And in fact, they were sitting among us. We knew that they were sitting among us because that's what they do. They blend in with the population. And there's no better way to get intelligence from people is to blend in with the population and listen to the U.S. military talk about what they're going to do. But the military do. They bring in some radios, give you some radios so you can listen to Voice of America, which no longer exists anymore because Trump got rid of it because apparently it's not important. And giving out radios and giving out some, you know, some other things, and blankets and things like that. And these guys were sitting among us, and some of the people were I'm sure were Taliban, some were not. Local elders. And they said, we see these helicopters going by and it scares us. And he said, well, they described them as like dragonflies in the sky, Apache helicopters. And the guy said, well, that's why we're here. And the way these guys were dressed, okay, these were very dangerous places where we were going. Remote villages on the border. Nobody's there to protect you if something goes wrong. And we had 50 people maybe with us. And they're sitting there, and they take their helmets off, they put their helmets down, they take their flak vests off, they put their flak vests aside, okay? And they're having this conversation, and the one guy from the agency said, we just want to work with you, we want to cooperate with you to get the worst of the worst out of here. We don't want to harm your village, we don't want to take over your country, we don't want to come back with the helmeted ones. The helmeted ones. The conventional troops that come back with wearing helmets and all the body armor and, with Humvees with 50 cals mounted on the top. We don't want to bring those guys back, and we don't want these dragonflies flying over your village all the time. So help us. And that's what we're asking for. Those things are sometimes successful and sometimes not. But I think it's a general attitude. When you're going into these places and you're working with people who are, for the most part, kind people and don't want to harm you, like in Minneapolis, you go in hard like that, you're sending a message. They're not doing it to try to solve the problems. If they were, they'd be talking to people. They're going in there to intimidate and establish themselves as a militant force that is to be reckoned with, that you cannot buck. And that's why they're surging more troops now. They want this to be all over the news. You're having peaceful vigils in downtown Minneapolis? Great. So what? We're coming after you anyways. And you're all terrorists, the ones who are protecting these people. You're not peaceful protesters. You're terrorists. You're domestic terrorists. Now, they pardoned people who tried to overthrow our government. They pardoned them all. One woman didn't take the pardon. Sort of an American hero. You should go back and try to find her speech in front of Congress. It's amazing. But the rest of them took the pardons because they didn't think they'd done anything wrong when they were knocking windows down. And these Republicans, by the way, were under their desks or running through the halls, terrified for their lives. And they had threatened the vice president of the fucking United States. And these people aren't terrorists. They're patriots. But the people trying to make sure that people are not mistreated in the streets of Minneapolis, and that you're only getting the most violent immigration lawbreakers, those people are now domestic terrorists. This is about them creating a situation where they can lock you down later. You're leading closer and closer to martial law. The more they have reasons to, the more they'll clamp down, and their reasoning behind it will be everybody's a domestic fucking terrorist. J.D. Vance is already working that language now. Trump's working the language. Kristi Noem's working the language. Everybody's calling everybody domestic terrorists and trying to take away your rights to free speech. This is the game plan for them. This is their game plan. This is their war game. So this is by design. Good luck. Like, follow, and share. Okay? The other thing I'll say is we're trying to get people off my personal page as much as we can. I've got like 50,000 followers over there in 2 weeks. And I can't even talk to my family anymore. I'm still going to post stuff there for now, but we also have these other pages, right? It's called From the Writer's Cabin. And it's on From the Writer's Cabin on Facebook. We have The Writer's Cabin on Blue Sky because it's too long a title to put on Blue Sky, apparently. It's only like 19 characters you're allowed. We're on TikTok. We're on YouTube. We're on Threads, I think. We're on Instagram under those titles. Please go find us there and start sharing it with all your friends and try to get our numbers back up so we can keep spreading this word, because the algorithm sees when more people are watching it, it spreads it to a wider audience. So I need your help. And you'll start seeing more from us in the future. Talk to you guys soon. Take care. Have a good Sunday.